Hey everyone, thank you for joining me for our wonderful webinar that we're gonna have today. My name is 𝗞𝗲𝘆 and I'm an expert transformational speaker and best-selling author on the topics of holistic transformation, self-mastery, and extreme performance. My company, 𝗞𝗲𝘆, is the world's leading personal growth hacking agency dedicated to empowering individuals who pursue excellence to exponentially enhance their quality of life by 10xing the only common denominator, themselves. Today we are gonna discuss a wonderful topic of how to supercharge our cognition and boost our brain and mind's ability to enable us to thrive in life. I always like to begin every webinar with the fundamental question, which is always why. And the question today is, why would you want to learn, or why would you want to boost your cognitive capacity or ability to cognize, to think, to create, and so on? Why is this important for you? Why am I asking you this question is because without a strong why, when the going gets tough, it's very easy to rationalize why we should not press and put the effort to get the results. So I definitely recommend that you, even not right now, immediately, is something that you always want to think about, especially every time you get yourself or become involved in something new that requires some effort, and there's going to be some frustration at the beginning. As a beginner at doing something, why do you want to do it? Why is it important to you? Because you see how we are wired is that our mind will always validate our emotional state. So if we don't feel like doing something that we know it's good for us, but it just doesn't feel okay, great. Thanks for sharing, Stephanie. That's a great reason why. However, let me elaborate further. What we want to find is not a rational reason. We want to dig deep and find a reason why that is so emotionally charged for us that every time we think about it, we're pumped up. Because again, every moment when we don't feel like it, our mind will find all of the rational stories and so on and convincing plot lines that will give us the reason and the justification why to give up. We cannot rely on our mind to keep us going. We have to be the one doing it by having a strong why that triggers within us emotions that keeps us on track. So that's why it's fundamental to have a strong why every time you're getting yourself into something new that is good for you, but might require some frustration at first, or for you to learn new things, because at every beginning, there's always gonna be the beginner's phase where you have to overcome some things. And again, it's not about the knowing of information, it's the application of this information that will yield the results. Now, Abraham Lincoln, many years ago was quoted for stating that if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I will spend the first 4 sharpening my axe. So this is what we're gonna be doing today through this webinar. I will share with you a lot of powerful insights how to sharpen your axe, because in essence, what has made us the predominant species on this planet and so successful is our cognitive capacity and ability to think, to create, to cognize, and so on. So by sharpening our axe, we can become a lot more efficient and effective at our lives and whatever it is that we pursue and want to do. So this is the main reason why we'll be learning all these things today. And another quote that I really love is that the mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So I do invite you to keep an open mind through this conversation and be present with me and see what ideas resonate with you on a deep level, and then take them and go and apply them in your life right away so you can start seeing some results. Because again, knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing. So it's always extremely important to start implementing all of the new insights you have into your life to reap the benefits. Or as another saying goes, you reap what you sow. You cannot expect to have a great return on investment if you don't invest first, right? What is required to win the lottery? Well, first you have to buy a ticket. You have to participate. So the first concept we're going to be speaking about really today, since we are sharpening the X, is that concept of GIGO, GIGO, which comes from data and from computers, which means, and programming languages, which is an abbreviation for garbage in, garbage out. So what do I mean by this? Well, first we have to be very conscious to what information we are exposed to on a daily basis. What kind of a crap do we consume? Is it good for us or is it bad for us? Because whether you know it or not, we are being programmed at every single moment of our life nonstop. We have no choice if we are or not, meaning we are socially conditioned and so on, through our environment, through the media, through our peer group, through every single thing. The only choice we have is who programs us, meaning is it us, is it someone else, and how are they programming us? So bringing a level of awareness into your daily life to what you're exposed to, because it's 95% or pretty much majority of the human condition is behavioral and habitual. I mean, it's habitual. So all of the things we do on a daily basis are habitual. And they are created, these habits are created over the layering of all of these repetitive thoughts, habits, doings, and so on and so on. And if you're exposed to some source of information, environment, or peer group that is not necessarily benefiting you and have a negative connotation, you cannot be surprised if you're experiencing some negative effects from that. So you have to be very specific and intentional about the information you consume, the people you spend time with, the environments you put yourself in, the books you read, all of these things. You have to be very specific and intentional. You have to have a standard, set a standard and a filter of what you're willing to accept and what you're not dealing with whatsoever. It's total nonsense. So we want to start there, because if you're to prune all the weeds, then there's nothing to worry about. Or you remove all these sources of pollution in your mental space, because that's what it is. It's pollution in your mental space that eventually is going to bring its nasty roots very deep, and it's going to be very hard for you to root out. So this is the first thing we want to be very conscious of. Eliminate or minimize the amount of garbage that comes in. Because if garbage comes in, garbage is going to come out. So with that being said, the next fundamental concept truly is that energy follows focus. And regardless of what we do, how we are, and so on, we're always going to need energy to perform. Even in idle, or when we are, let's say, meditating and not doing anything consciously in our cognition, thinking about, concentrated and so on, our brain, even though it's like a tiny speck of the entire body weight and mass, consumes more than 20% of all the vital energy available to the entire body. So the more we want to think or concentrate, the more energy the brain will be drawing, just like a processor in a computer. it draws the main amount of energy and exhausts all the heat and so on. So energy follows focus. What we focus on, our energy goes to. So without being understood, then it becomes fundamentally important to be able to focus, to be able to concentrate. Because a very simple analogy, we all know sunlight. We've all baked in the, basked in the sun, lay down in the sun, got some tan and so on, right? Unless you're in the tropics near the equator where you've got to get really red for 30 minutes or even less. If you're to go and spend hours in the sun, there's not going to be much of damage done to your skin, and all of life on our planet is sustained by the photons, or the energy that is absorbed through the sunlight. However, if we are to get a magnifying glass and focus the sunlight on something, we'll be burning through things in less than a minute. So this is how powerful our focus and concentration can be. It can make the difference from burning through things to just nothingness. Or not that it's nothingness, but it's not effective when it's spread or allowed to be out of focus and not concentrated. So this is what we're going to be learning on, or I'll be sharing with you some powerful daily practices that you can implement into your life. Start practicing on a daily basis, because concentration is a muscle that you can train. Just like I can go to the gym and, let's say, isolate my biceps and train it, you can isolate to train your muscle of concentration. So then when you want to use your mind to do something, you can really focus and concentrate all of your energy on a specific task at a time, because the time we live in is extremely over excited or exciting and overloaded with, we are overloaded on a daily basis with information, with all the stimulus and all this nonsense. And most of us, if not all, have been well trained to be distracted rather than concentrated and focused. So this is a skill you have to develop. It's a non-negotiable skill if you really want to be able to fully engage and use your mind at its fullest capacity. Because again, we are being trained every single day to be distracted, because there's just all this stuff all the time. So the first thing we're gonna be learning how to do is actually using the most fundamental thing within our control that allows us or gives us a significant control over our entire physiology, including our life itself. Now, when you look in my face, what do you see is the most central thing in it? It's my nose. And it's there now for no random reason. It's there because it's central and fundamental to everything in the human condition, and all physiological and psychological processes that take place. Breathing is how we control everything within our system. So if we want to be able to concentrate and focus quickly, I will share with you now a very powerful technique that you can start implementing like right away into your life. Maybe the way I do it is going to be a little bit more, not complicated, but hard for you at the beginning, because I do breathing exercises and all different kinds of spiritual modalities daily. So for me to sustain my breath or without breath for a long time is perfectly fine. For you will have to adjust what works for you. But the technique is you inhale slowly through your nose for the count of, let's say, 10. Maybe this will be too much. Maybe you'll have to do 5 at first. So you inhale slowly through your nose for the count of 5. Then you hold your breath for the count of 5. Then you exhale slowly through your nose for the count of 5. And then you stay in the breathless state for the count of 5. Now, again, you'll have to test out how this works for you, what your capacity is and what you're comfortable with. I normally do 15, 15, 15, 15, meaning 1 breath a minute. Once you get to that state, you will see that your mind gets very focused. You'll start to feel your heartbeat. That's a good sign. If you can feel your heartbeat in a normal, relaxed state, right? Because at what other times during the day have you ever experienced your heartbeat outside of when you're really anxious and nervous? This is a good indication. If you can feel your heartbeat without being anxious and nervous, that you're actually getting into a deep state of concentration and focus. And that's a very simple thing you can do every single day. So I'll just demonstrate right now. Let me just catch my breath and shut up for a moment. But so there it is. That's 1 breath for 1 minute. And the count I do is 1 count per second. So again, you have to experiment with this to see what's going to work for you. Obviously, not everyone's going to be able to do a 15-second count. But once you start doing this, you'll be able to quickly get into a very concentrated state. And not only this, but this is also very powerful. The same technique is very powerful if you are feeling anxious and stressed out. Like, let's say you're about to give a presentation or you're about to do something that makes you anxious and nervous. Do the same thing. You will see that after you have done the breath, or maybe if you're doing it for lower or shorter periods of time, maybe you'll have to do it 3 or 4 times rather than just 1 breath. So practice this. It's a very powerful technique to quickly put yourself physiologically and psychologically in a deep state, focused, concentrated state. Now, obviously, there are other exercises we can do that would take a lot more dedication of time and effort to build the muscle. But once we do develop it, it's gonna serve us powerfully for the rest of our life. Now, this exercise that I'm gonna share with you now, again, is extremely powerful, but you'll have to do it, and you'll have to make the time to do it. And again, I do recommend that you go out and test those techniques for yourself. And not only test them out, but by doing this next one I'm gonna share with you, you're gonna learn how well or how good you are at being distracted, and how much room for improvement you have when it comes down to learning how to focus and concentrate. So the first thing you need to do is have a book. Find a book. Doesn't matter what book it is, because it's not about the reading or what we'll be reading the book. It's just using the book. So find a book, normal book, and what you're going to be doing, you'll find some quiet space and place at home or wherever you want for 5 to 10 minutes every single day, or as much as you wish to dedicate. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to start without, the only thing you're going to be using your hands for is to hold the book. So you can keep the book with your hands. You're not going to be using your fingers, no pens, no nothing. What you're going to start doing is just open a random page on the book and choose a random paragraph to start reading from. And what I want you to do is to start counting the words from the beginning of the paragraph to wherever you reach to 100 words. And then once you reach word 100, I want you to go start counting backwards. Not in the sense of like 99, 98. Again, one, but backwards, meaning like you're going up the rows back to where you originally started. And see if you're able to actually count 100, and then your count will be back on 100 at the starting word. Most cases and most often people are way off. And if you're actually able to do it from the beginning easily, meaning you can go forward, backwards, forward, backwards, forward, backwards 3 times without getting it wrong, then you can increase the amount of words you count to 150 or with a 50 words. And then once you become good at it at 150, then you increase with another 50 words, which takes you at 200. And then once you're good at that level, you increase it with another 50. The goal is to get to 500. If you can get 500, then you're making strides. So this is a very powerful technique. You can start training every day to exercise your muscle of concentration, which is fundamentally important. I do recommend at least give it a try to see how well you are at being distracted or lacking concentration, because it's going to open your eyes to a lot of things that maybe you're not aware of right now. And that's where we start. We always start by being aware where we at, because in order to get somewhere, first we need to know where we at. So those two, and you can also do the breathing exercise prior to sitting down to read, or while you sit down to read and count the words, first do the breathing exercise so you can calm down and concentrate your mind, and then start from that point. If you stack them together, the exercises will be even more powerful. So this is something that you can start doing practically tomorrow or right after the webinar if you wish so. I do recommend taking action on it and implementing it. Now, we already spoke about energy and how important energy is. So the next thing we'll be doing really to energize or give our mind all of the energy it needs in order to be functioning at its highest capacity and to understand really what are the most fundamental energy sources that supply our body and mind with energy on a daily basis. What are those things that we can tap into to make sure that we are well recharged, essentially speaking? Well, the first thing is oxygen. Oxygen is the first most fundamental thing. As you well know, and maybe you don't know that, but we all well know that we can last for days, if not months, if not years without food. They're registered, the Guinness Book of Records. There's a man from Ireland who holds the record for the longest fast. He fasted on just juices and nothing, pretty much no substance, for over a year. I think it was 380 some days. So the body can sustain itself for a very long time with no substance, with no food. That's perfectly fine. Same holds true for water. Not for as long. We can last for 5, 6, whatever days. We can last for days without water. However, we cannot last a handful of minutes with no oxygen or without breathing. So breathing is fundamental. The number one way we energize and bring energy into the body is through our breath. So if you want to be always well energized and always have a very sharp mind, we first need to know how to breathe and breathe properly all the time, because without proper breathing technique, not only we're not going to be able to supply our brain with sufficient oxygen because that's what it needs to function, but also we'll be causing ourselves a lot of stress and anxiety just by misusing our own physiology. Now, many of you probably have seen babies. I hope you have. And observe how they breathe. What you will notice is that they breathe in their diaphragm. They breathe right here in their bellies. They don't breathe here in the chest. And this is exactly what proper breathing technique is. breathing in your diaphragm. Maybe it's something that you are completely unaware of, where you breathe right now. But if you breathe right here in your chest, you're causing yourself a mild stress and anxiety on a daily basis without even knowing. Not only this, you're depriving your body from sufficient supply of oxygen, because 2/3 of the alveoli, or this tiny little organelles that make up the lungs and absorb all the oxygen that we breathe in, are right here in the diaphragm, not here in the chest. Only 1/3 is in the chest. So technically speaking, for every breath I take in my belly, it's like two, if I was to take two in my chest. So learning or relearning how to breathe is fundamentally important, because once you have a good breathing technique, not only you will be more relaxed and concentrated, but you'll have higher level of energy. So the first thing we want to be always conscious of and focused on is our breathing, because there are so many powerful breathing techniques. I don't know if you guys have experience with breath work. Feel free to unmute yourself or post in the chat box. I'm curious, have you tried any breathing techniques, breath work techniques prior? Anyone? Okay, yoga, mindfulness, but anything specific?
When you say specific, what do you mean? Like, so I go to acupuncture. I try to get there twice weekly, depending on my work schedule. And he plays music. So it's just a quiet time, and I'm not supposed to be tuned into anything.
I see. No, I'm speaking about specific particular breathwork techniques. Well, if you haven't, and you're looking for something quite amazing as an experience that will keep you excited for the rest of your life, that you like to share with your friends, I would recommend you trying out holotropic breathwork.
Can you put that in the chat so I can get the spelling?
Sure, absolutely.
Thanks.
So this will give you some idea of how important breathing is, and how much energy can you gain just through breath work itself. Now, I used to practice this every morning, but due to my spiritual practices and so on, I don't do it anymore because it doesn't affect me in the same way. But initially, for those who haven't, it's quite the experience. It's groundbreaking. You would never have anything experienced like this in your life. So I do recommend checking it out if you like very novel and exciting experiences in your life. I definitely recommend this. But this is also gonna be an extreme example of how important the fundamental proper breathing is. Okay, transcendental meditation. Okay, transcendental meditation, this is great. Meditation is something we're gonna talk about, but meditation is not what I'm referring to. Breath work is breath work, meditation is meditation. There are different vehicles for different results. They're both highly effective, but it's just for different results. And transcendental meditation, I've experimented with different models of it, has to do with chanting and so on, which is great. It does help the mind to focus and concentrate. It's actually when you do transcendental meditation, because you're mentally chanting a word, is actually using this word, whatever your mantra is. Correct me if I'm not wrong, there's a mantra that somebody gives you that you repeat while you are meditating, but the mantra is like your anchor that allows you to focus and concentrate your mind, so you can start getting internalized. That's why is it there. So it's actually using a process of training you to become focused and concentrated. But knowing again, the key is to how to relearn how to breathe first, right? If you are aware of that you are a chest breather and you want to relearn how to breathe in your belly, what I recommend is, again, invest 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever you want to, on your daily basis. However, what I want to state is that this is fundamentally important. If you want to increase the quality of your life, you want to learn how to breathe. This is fundamental. I cannot understate or overstate this much more. Because again, if you're breathing in your chest, you're causing yourself just through your breathing stress and anxiety. Because the only reason a human being would be breathing in their chest is when they're under fight or flight or they're being attacked. In no other reason a human being ever breathes in their chests. Because through our physiology, we can directly influence our psychology. It's the most direct link. So this is why it's so fundamentally important. And not only will we be stressed out and anxious, but stress and anxiety draws or steals our energy away. So not only will we, again, experiencing the negative effects of stress, but we'll always be lacking energy, which, again, coming from the place of we need energy to supply our brain with what it needs in order to function properly. It's, again, fundamentally important. So what you can do is place one of your hands right here on your chest, the other one on your belly. And what I want you to start practicing is breathing through your nose and exhaling through your nose, and while attempting to only move the hand on your belly and minimize the movement right here. Now, this is going to take a while. If you're a chest breather, this is going to take a while. Don't rush. It's well worth the investment because you're going to see how much different you are and how much different you feel on a day-to-day basis. There's going to be a significant difference. I can guarantee you this, on how much calmer you are, how much more present you are, how much more energy you have, and so on and so on. So it's well worth investing the time to learn how to breathe as it should, or as you should be able to. Now, the next source of energy after oxygen is water. Up to 80% at a time of the human body content, or what makes the human body, is water. Every time we become dehydrated, which can be quickly evaluated by the color of our urine, if it's getting yellow, we are getting dehydrated. Because every time we breathe, we exhale humidity. Just like if you have a little, you want to clean the screen of something, you exhale some hot air from your lungs, you'll see how it gets wet right away. So every time we breathe, even while we sleep, we lose almost a gallon of water, or half a gallon. Point being is that we are mostly what makes our bodies water. Every time we are dehydrated, we become lethargic. We lack energy because all of the communication that takes place within the human body, which is nothing but a symphony or an orchestra of 100 trillion cells that operate, collaborate, and communicate with each other on at billions and billions of different permutations per every single second, is based through this fluid water and through electrolytes and all these signals that travel through this liquid highway that makes up our body. So we need to stay hydrated very, very well throughout the day. I would say minimum, if you're someone who's not an athlete and you don't train hard and so on, and live in an environment where it's very, very warm and you sweat all the time, because through sweat, obviously, we are losing a lot of our water content, is to drink up to definitely a gallon, if not more. Always stay well hydrated. Actually, an interesting trick is that every time you're hungry or you feel hungry, it's not actually hunger. It's you're thirsty. Because you see, if you think about it, prior to bottled water and the wide availability of sources of water that we can drink of, our ancient ancestors that would live as hunter-gatherers that forage through the forest and so on wouldn't be able to carry water with them, or even if they did, would be minuscule. So the most amount of water they will acquire through the day was through eating vegetables and fruit. That's why we get hungry. We don't get hungry because we're hungry. We get hungry because we are thirsty. So every time you're hungry, first drink a glass of water. If you're still hungry afterwards, 5-10 minutes later, then go ahead and eat. But first, stay well hydrated. And when I say hydrated, I do mean drinking water, because everything else is crap. It's water that the body needs. And there are specific things you can drink that actually make you even lose more water. With one of them, which is diuretic, which makes the body release or loses its water content, is coffee or caffeine. So if you like to drink coffee, you should stay extra hydrated, because you're often losing all of it, or you, in a more accelerated way, losing a lot of the water content in your body. So as you see, I already been through 2 of these in the last not even an hour. So water is fundamentally important to stay hydrated. First 2 things for highest amounts of energy: proper breathing and proper hydration. Cheers to that. So well hydrated, especially again, the moment you start to feel sleepy, you lack concentration, you kind of feel like, I'm off. Rehydrate, move, sit up, move, breathe properly. Once we have those 2 sides covered, then we can start looking at food at all. Because here's the thing, unless you eat high quality food that is all natural, raw, and grown in organic, proper form, you losing and wasting away more energy than you gain back by the consumption and digestion of the food. Because here's the thing, since supplying the body with nutrients is of fundamental importance and a process that sustains the body's operation, because that's what we do when we eat, is to supply the body with nutrients. We don't eat for energy. There's a big confusion out there that you need to eat to have energy. What you're doing while you eat is you supply your body with the nutrients or the building blocks it needs in order to repair itself, to build new infrastructure, and to keep itself alive, not for energy. Again, the 2 main sources of energy is first, number 1, oxygen, number 2, water. The rest is for nutritional value. However, because the process of digesting food is a highly, highly energy-intense process that draws away a lot of vital energy that we can use for other things. We are wasting a lot of energy each time we sit down to eat and digest food. Even if you were to eat a little handful of nuts or something very small, you trigger the same 8 to 10 hours long process of digestion. The body doesn't make a difference, and you waste a significant amount of energy. So if we're going to be using food as our last resort for energy, what you need to do is to train your body to live off fat, or to always burn fat first, because fat is flat, meaning fat burns flat. It doesn't have spikes. Because if we are to eat carb-rich foods or proteins, especially with carbs, it causes very rapid spikes in blood sugar or glucose levels in the body, which kind of gives us a very short high, and then we literally lethargic and crash. The only food that could supply us with sustained amount of energy without any of those variations in energy levels is fat, high quality fat, ghee, MCT oil, olive oil, avocados, anything that's good and rich in omega-3s and all these healthy, nice fats, because once you learn or teach your body to first go for the fat rather than anything else, is going to be sustaining a very high level of energy, or at least have a very consistent energy level. For example, now not to to be like, oh, look at me. I personally, I know this is tough, and I'm not saying you should do this, but I eat only once per day. And I go throughout the entire day with no food, only oxygen and water. I normally eat at the end of the day because I need my energy for my mental work. I read, I write, I host webinars, I coach people. All of the work I do is highly intellectual. So I need all of this energy for my intellectual and mental capacity rather than wasting it to digest food. Because if I was to sit down and have a lunch, have a breakfast, by the time the afternoon comes in, I have no energy left for anything else to do besides digesting food. Why food is such a problem for us to overcome is that food is the #1 drug in the world. What do I mean by this? 99.9% of human beings use food as their drug of choice to control their emotional state. Most people eat emotionally. They don't eat because they're hungry. I would imagine there have been times in your life when you feel satiated, but you still want to eat. You have appetite to eat more and more and more and more and more. You just don't feel like you've ate enough. This is coming from an emotional need, because every time we eat, we feel comfort. We make ourselves comfortable. This is why it's so tough to overcome the need to eat. But here's a question you want to ask yourself. Are you a shit factory? Would you define yourself as a factory for shit? Because if you're eating 3 times per day or multiple meals throughout the day, this is what you're turning yourself into essentially. The food digestion process takes, just in the gut area, takes about 10 hours. The whole process, if you're eating just vegetables and raw nuts and things of that nature without meat or heavy carbs, is about anywhere between 14 to 18 hours each time you trigger it. Now, if you're eating meat, this can take 3 days and create inflammation within your gut. Now, if you eat 3 meals per day, essentially you have wasted about 66% of your vital daily energy just to digest food for no good reason, because there's no benefits to it. How many times after food have you felt more energized and focused and concentrated? Especially if you eat anything high carbs, I definitely recommend staying from carbs whatsoever. Absolutely, because there's no gain there. They're gonna make you lethargic. They're gonna make you crash. You're just gonna get slow. You're gonna have mental fog and so on, because what you feed your brain with makes the most significant difference. Our brains are more than 80% of their content is fat. They thrive on fat. Not all fat, again, not all fats are equal. But fat is what you want to learn and train your body to burn first rather than anything else. And how do you do this? Through fasting first. I always stay in a fasting state 24 hours every single day. Now, this is extreme. I don't recommend this for somebody who haven't done this before. But if you want to start to see levels of energy you've never seen before, levels of concentration and so on, fasting is something I highly recommend. For example, I'll give you a personal example. Sometimes I go through 5 to 7 days long water fasts. I have equal amount of energy throughout this whole period. And usually on day 4 or 5 is my brain gets so wired and so finely tuned, I can almost smell the blood of things. Because here's what happens. Our brain is there to coordinate the body and to ensure our survival. So if we don't have food to eat, the brain is focused and concentrated because it needs to get you food, right? Because if you were, again, to go back and return to the origin of our ancestors, they didn't have Walmart, they didn't have Whole Foods, they didn't have whatever grocery store there is or a restaurant to go and sit down and eat, right? They had to go and source their food through foraging, through hunting, through whatever it was. And in order to do so, especially if you are a hunter, well, you have to be very agile, focused, and concentrated, or you might get killed, right? So the brain is highly attuned when you're in a fasting state. There is no more powerful state for your brain to be fully on and fully engaged and all of your senses fully enhanced if you're in a fasting state. Once you eat food, you will notice if you've been in a fasting state that unless it's something, again, very natural and simple, like fruits, nuts, and vegetables, and seeds and berries, you're gonna be feeling a lot very relaxed and lethargic, because the best we can do by eating food when it comes down to energy is to break even. If we break even, meaning like we didn't lose energy to digest this food, we broke even, we're actually doing extremely well, which is very rare, and that has to do with, again, eating natural, simple, raw food. So this is why using food for energy source is highly inefficient. It's the most inefficient thing you can do. I know this is a very hard concept to wrap your head around and to start making strides upon, but you can start making little adjustments in your daily life to see how this affects you, to experiment, because I do recommend that you experiment. And the only thing that's going to be the challenge is your emotional state. However, if you have a strong why, you do things, you can make those changes in your life. So what I recommend is for you to be in a fasting state in the morning. That's the easiest thing to do, to not eat when you wake up, to skip breakfast. Have lunch, have dinner, skip breakfast, and see how you perform at your work. Because I would imagine you're concerned with your cognition and ability to have all of these mental energy for your work, rather than just sitting down and watching mindless TV or playing video games or whatever the hell it is, right? It's about your professional pursuits that you want to be able to show up fully on, ready to kick ass, right? So skip breakfast, test it out, see how you not necessarily feel, because again, if you're using food as your main way to balance your emotional state, we're not looking for how we feel. We're looking at how are we performing mentally. Am I focused and am I concentrated? Do I have high levels of energy? Not how you feel emotionally. These are some important distinctions to start being able to make. And again, if we are to breathe properly and we hydrate properly, we're going to have all of this energy that we think we're lacking before. Because if you, at this point, were to practice some form of fasting without being able to breathe properly and stay well hydrated, you're going to feel like you're lacking on so much. Like, oh, I don't have energy, I don't have this stuff, all this kind of stuff. And it's not that you don't have it, you just, by eating, you make yourself a lot more comfortable, emotional. You don't change your energy level. The energy level is still the same. So this is something that we have to be extremely mindful of. Like, what type of fuels are we using to supply the system with what it needs? I'm not saying don't eat, but be mindful of the fact that the food is the last resort you want to go to. Last resort. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is stimulants, or stimulants that stimulate our nervous system. The main one of which is caffeine. I used to love coffee, I still do, but I pretty much got it out of my system and once in a while have a cup. What I recommend, because what caffeine does, it gets us all wired up in our brain all over the place. and has significant first negative effects on our chemistry from the perspective of the hormonal balance within our body, and second, again, causing dehydration and so on, and overstimulation of the nervous system. What we want to do, if you're someone who likes coffee, don't drink coffee for the first 2 hours after you wake up. Because as you wake up naturally, your body is already very high. It's the way our bodies are built and wired is to pump up high levels of cortisol and adrenaline, which are the hormones of stress, to wake us up naturally in the morning. So our bodies are already doing this. And by, let's say, if you wake up and have your coffee right away, you're just throwing or creating more of this toxic chemistry within your body, which is already high. So you don't want to do this. You want to wait for at least 2 hours and then enjoy a cup of coffee. But don't overdo it, because you'll be overstimulating your nervous system, which is not a good thing at all. You'll be burning out your nervous system. 1 cup of coffee, 2 hours after you wake up. That's the rule. If you like to use coffee, I don't say don't use it. My recommendation is to, if you're gonna have coffee, have 1 black coffee. Don't add anything in it, especially if your idea is to try fasting, at least by skipping your breakfast, and see how you're performing mentally. The next step is, if we're going to be learning how to focus and concentrate and focus our energy on what we're working on, is to learn how to first set ourselves up for success by removing distractions from our environment. Well, you will probably agree with me that your number 1 distraction nowadays is your mobile phone. So what do? Airplane mode. Now I'll share with you my take on this. Every morning when I wake up, or when I go to sleep or whatever, and if I'm not using my phone throughout the day, if I'm not in the sense of I want to make a phone call, I want to reach out to someone, I don't give a fuck what the fuck is going on. My phone is always on airplane mode. Only when I need to actually make a phone call or whatever it is, I turn it off, I put it on being connected to the network, I make my call, send a text message, check my emails, whatever it is, and I'm back into airplane mode. By doing this, I limit the amount of distractions that enters my daily life. Because if you don't do this, you literally have left the door open on your home, and everyone can come in whenever they like, sit down on your couch, put their feet up, and start making noise in your mental space. You want to be very cautious of this. For example, I don't touch my phone for the first 4 hours every single morning. I don't give a fuck what's going on. If it's something important, it's going to find its way to me. I don't need to know everything. I don't need to be on top of all the things. There's a lot of this stress going on. People are freaking out like they have the FOMO, right? The fear of missing out on things. Like they feel like, oh, if I knew about it, maybe I'll do something about it. There's nothing you can do. If something happens that is traumatic, tragic, whatever it is, there's nothing you can do. Since you're not there and you're on the receiving end of receiving information or some learning about it. So number 1 thing, airplane mode. Your phone works for you. You don't work for your phone. That's the number 1 paradigm shift. Number 2 is multitasking. There is this confusion out there that people say that you can multitask. You cannot multitask. The way the mind works is 1, 2, 3, many, which means overwhelmed. Only thing you can do successfully if you train yourself to do so is called task switching, meaning that you can transfer your focus and concentrating from one task to the other, but not have 2 tasks simultaneously. The mind can only focus on one thing at a time. You cannot be focused on 2 things, or you won't be focused to begin with. So removing distractions, Facebooks, whatever, if you're working on the computer, putting away all the stuff that is not related to what you're working on. Again, if you're in an office environment, which is probably not the case today, but as things start to normalize from the working space perspective and so on, and you have to be in an environment where there are people closing your door, putting a note on your door so people don't disturb you. So you have your mental space to focus and concentrate, because we'll explore why this is so fundamentally important. So removing all of the distractions from your life is number one, because again, we live in an overly stimulated environment that is always crying for our attention. Everywhere you go, it's all about attention. That's the one thing that marketers nowadays want, our attention. If they have our attention, they'll bombard us with whatever the fuck they have in mind. So you want to be the door, you're the doorman, or the person who is choosing what comes into your life and what does not. Why am I saying this? Because in order for you really to start working with your mental capacity, you need to be able to enter undisturbed, deep periods of concentration, or like periods up to 90 minutes. I would say anywhere between 45 to 90 minutes, because 90 would be the maximum, to where you can focus and concentrate on a particular task. So, because it takes up to 20 minutes for your brain to spool properly, to get from idle to full speed, to working and fully concentrated on a project. And if you're doing this right, maybe even go into flow state, which is extremely, extremely productive and powerful place to operate from. But you need time to build up to it, and you need undisturbed and free of distraction space to do so. If you're always checking your phone, you have your emails blinking, all of these notifications, right? All notifications, for example, the first thing I do in the morning when I turn on my computer, actually after I decide to turn it on, is to turn off all notifications. You're not going to miss on anything. The world is still going to be there. Be the one who looks at the notification. Don't be a doorbell for everybody, right? For everybody like boom, 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 boom. Create some space where you can use your time and energy to focus and concentrate on the things that matter to you, and move your needle forward every single time, rather than be in a limbo of swinging back and forward and not getting anywhere. But this has to do with you setting yourself first for success by removing distractions, no notifications, none of this crap. You know very well in your life, you're the expert of your experience of what are the most distracting things that you are prone to. So make a list, and one by one eliminate them or minimize them. You will be doing yourself a significant favor. I do recommend that you take action on this as well. Now, the next thing you need to do in order to help yourself to focus, when we talk about concentrating deeply and focusing, is setting a clear intention of what is the outcome that you want to have by being engaged in whatever task you're engaged at a moment. So every time you have a task in mind that you want to take on, that you'll be focusing and concentrating, always set a clear intention of what your desired outcome for this task is. And come into it or engage with this task from this place of having a clear intention what the outcome that you seek and desire is. Now, that doesn't mean that you'll be outcome dependent, but you set a very clear intention about what your desired outcome is, because once you do so, your mind will be a lot more focused and concentrated on that specific task and lack any desire to be distracted with other things by, let's say, checking your Facebook or however you entertain yourself when you feel bored when you work on a task. So always having a clear intention. What is my desired outcome here? What do I wish to reach at the end of, again, if you're doing what I'm recommending, to start creating these windows or periods of high concentration for anywhere between 45 to 90 minutes maximum. I definitely recommend don't go over 90 minutes. Up to 90 minutes for high focus and concentration to work on tasks. Then after 90 minutes, what you can do depending on how you want to set up your day, right? We're not going to talk about productivity today, but this is kind of like it, is you want to take up to 15 to 20 minutes to sit up, to move, to rehydrate, to oxygenate, to get some fresh air and sunlight, so you get back into your focus state, and then set another one if you want to for 45 to 90 minutes. And every time the spirit is over, take 15 to 20 minutes just to give your mind time to idle, to relax, to recharge through, again, oxygen, water, sunlight, and fresh air. These are the fundamental requirements. And movement. You don't want to be sitting down for too long. As you probably noticed, I don't sit down throughout the day. Unless I sit down to eat, I don't sit down. We're not built to sit down. That's why people have back problems, because they're sitting down for too long. Now, maybe this is not uncomfortable, but I definitely recommend that you make an effort every hour or two to move, to get your body fully engaged, because again, this piece of fat right here that gives us this ability to think in such a powerful ways that we have created this amazing world out there is first and foremost a processor that allows us to coordinate the whole body, all of the movements and so on. And by moving the body, fully engaging the body, someone already mentioned you're doing yoga and so on. These are great activities. You're simulating your brain, because that's how it gets simulated, by you using your body in very intricate and fully engaging ways. So moving between those periods of high concentration is fundamental for you to keep your mind engaged and fresh and alive, because you either use it or you lose it. Any part of the human condition, body, psyche, and so on, that is not used atrophies. So use it or lose it. It's up to you. Again, you have a lot of choices to make in life. And especially with all the information I'm sharing with you today, there's going to be a lot of new choices that will be coming up for you. And I hope, again, that you're going to be taking action and applying this into your daily life, because you're going to be seeing some dramatic difference in the results you gain. Because at the end of the day, it's about the results. It's not about the knowing part. The other stuff, and not stuff, but the next step, as I already mentioned, food is what we want to be tapping into as last resort when it comes down to energy. So the first thing we want to do, if we're going to be having food, is to avoid heavy meals. Anything heavy, anything big, anything like this is going to make you lethargic. Anything sugar, anything carbs is going to make you lethargic. It's going to make you crash. It's going to get you all sleepy and retarded pretty much. So you want to avoid all this type of food. If you're going to be eating food, especially for lunch at work or while you focused on something you want to be focused on, you want to eat very light stuff, salads, again, a lot of water, fruits, nuts, as natural and real as possible. You want to avoid all the heavy crap. And fat is good too. So any healthy fat, ghee, MCT, coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil, anything good fat, absolutely. Salads, fruits, nuts, that's it. If you want to be performing, so not only to be performing, but to not feel like you're crashing, lethargic, lack ability to concentrate and have mental fog, you want to be avoiding carbs by all means, and avoiding heavy meals, because again, food digestion is a very energy intense process. And I do truly mean it. So you want to be minimizing the amount of energy you're wasting away in digesting food, because as we discussed already, you're not a shit factory. I hope you don't see yourself as one. I definitely don't see myself as one either. So always be mindful of, now I'm not saying don't enjoy a nice meal, but do it at the end of the day when you can retire and just watch TV or a movie, when you don't really need to be focused and concentrated and using all of your cognition. You do it in times when you're just relaxing, when you don't want to be engaged with things, when you just like, you want to indulge yourself. I'm not suggesting that you don't, and you'll be one of these like renunciant monks that live up in the Himalaya mountains. That's not my suggestion, but just be mindful of when you have those meals, because they will affect you significantly, mentally and physically. So always keep that in mind. Always coming from this place of, again, being intentional. Now, I already mentioned this, but if you want to really enhance your mental capacity and cognition to a whole new level that you haven't experienced before, I highly, and I cannot even recommend more, water fasting. Being in fasting state for prolonged periods of time. This is gonna be a dramatic game changer, as long as you can handle it emotionally. Some perspective, again, of not using food to manage your emotions. But if you get into a prolonged fasting state, you will see that you have clarity in your head that you never had before. So if you really want to be performing mentally at the highest level, fasting is the way to go. Now, there's other things we can do also, again, coming from the place of, we live in a industrialized Western society. From early age, we've been brainwashed that logic, rationale, and using our left linear thinking mind is the only way to come into the world, to be almost like a computer that follows strict procedures and patterns. However, we have a whole right side of the brain this is where our creativity lives, our intuition, and all these amazing things that have actually allowed humanity to create all of the innovation we really enjoy nowadays and have changed our life. However, again, in our environment and the way we're brought up, we are predominantly taught not only just to use our left mind, but we're not taught about anything of how to stimulate or start giving our right side of the brain hemisphere any stimulus so that it actually can work or develop itself. So there's something really simple that you can do. Again, the brain is there to coordinate all of the movements in the body. And what you need to understand, which is interesting if you never heard this before, is that the left side of the brain, or the left hemisphere, is responsible for the right side of the body, while the right one is responsible for the left side of the body. So if you want to be stimulating your right side of the brain to be more creative, to be more ingenious, to be more resourceful, to be more intuitive, what you want to be doing and start doing as soon as possible is using your left hand a lot. There is this misnomer out there, misconception that we either left-handed or right-handed. There is no such thing. We are both-handed. However, most people, including me for a long time, tend to prefer one over the other. I'm used to be right-handed. Now I'm ambidextrous, meaning I use both my hands, and most of the time I actually, when have to do normal tasks during the day that are not life and death, where like precision is not so important, like eating my food, brushing my teeth, using my mouse here on the computer, and other things like that, I would always use my left hand to do it. So engaging your left side of the body, especially using the hand, because the hand requires a lot of coordination, stimulates your right side of the brain, which is a very, very positive and powerful thing to do. Now, something I do other times, just because I'm like this, you can do it, whatever you wish to do it, just something I throw out there, which would definitely stimulate your right side of the brain in an interesting way, is to use your feet or your legs when you like bare feet to grab things, to open doors, all kinds of stuff, right? The more complicated it is, the more coordination is required, the more stimulated your brain will be. Because again, the brain is there to coordinate all the movements and all the things that happen in your body. So if you want to train it as a muscle, you want to be stimulating it in powerful ways that it's not exposed to on a daily basis, right? And if you never try to brush your teeth with your left hand, if you're right-handed, or to eat your meal, or to do something that you always do with your right hand, you will see that at first it's going to be kind of weird. There's going to be a lot of, you'll have to wrap your head around it, of how it works. So I do recommend that you start doing this. It's basically working out the right side of your brain. Now, when it comes down to memory, right, because one of the things that we are amazing about, or gives us ability to create, to learn, and so on, is our memory. And in order to enhance our memory, the most significant thing that we can do to speed up the process of remembering, learning things, and memorizing them on a deeper level, at the subconscious level where it's stored in long-term memory, is to be highly engaged with whatever we are doing. The more engaged you are, the more increased your ability to remember and store information in long-term storage. So you want to be engaged. If you're reading a book, you want to be, in a way, again, maybe standing up, maybe being engaged. Like, for example, what I like to do is to exercise or work out while I'm listening to audiobooks, because I'm exercising my body and simultaneously I'm learning stuff. Because at a certain point, when your body has muscle memory, you don't have to be conscious about the type of exercises or the things you are doing, and your consciousness and focus can be fully concentrated on something else. Just like you can have a conversation and whatever you're doing in your car, drive your car, get to work and not even know that you got there and how you got there. And do all these other things in the meantime. So being engaged in that level, engaging your full body while doing something, especially learning or so on, is very powerful. However, there is even a more powerful level that we can affect this. And this is emotionally. If we can generate and trigger very powerful emotions within us, right? You've probably been through a traumatic event in the past, or somewhere where you felt a lot of pain and so on. You probably remember this memory very clearly. That's because there was a significant emotional event taking place in your life. Everything that contains or exposes us to a significant level of emotion is directly and immediately stored in long-term memory. So this is something to always keep in mind. If you want to be learning fast, you want to be training yourself to elicit and put yourself in a highly emotional state. The higher your emotional state, the stronger your memory retention becomes. It's a very simple fact. That's why trauma, emotional trauma, and those memories are very hard to get rid of, because they're written in a very deep place. So learning how to do it is something that is a skill in itself, and it's a muscle you can train. And I would definitely recommend that you join me for my emotional intelligence webinar coming in 2 or 3 weeks from now, because we're going to be discussing a lot of these subjects of how to actually generate and how to become an emotional athlete, where you can generate emotions from within rather than relying on externalities to make you feel things within. Because the only place we experience any emotions is within. Nothing outside of us makes us feel anything. The human condition is a self-contained little hermetic bubble Nothing from the outside makes you feel things within. But that's a topic for a very specific and different conversation that will give you a lot more context and idea of why is this so. The next thing we can use to focus, concentrate, and remember things is if we are to, for example, read a book or want to learn something, or we want to be engaged with something in a very deep level, when it comes down to memory retention and being focused and concentrating, is asking ourselves questions prior to. There are 5 fundamental questions that we can ask ourselves. The first one is why. As we started again with the conversation, the why, the what, the where, the when, and the who. So whenever we engage with some new information, for example, always, in order to keep your mind focused on the important things, ask yourself a question. You can do it in through your meditation, or you can do it out loud. Questions are the steering mind's wheel, or through questions we can steer our mind's focus and attention on what we're looking for. So for example, if you're sitting down to read a book or a textbook, ask yourself, what's the most important thing I can learn from this lesson? Who, for example, came up with it? Or if you're reading a story, something interesting, and you just want to be engaged, is where is this happening? What is happening here? Who is it happening to? Right? Always asking your question, because by asking yourself a question, and what do I recommend is a powerful open-ended question, you focus and concentrate your mind on a specific desired outcome, just like with setting an intention prior to getting into a task. So always using powerful questions to steer your mind's attention and to keep this background filter of your subconscious mind while you're learning information, listening to something, and so on, to be always keeping an eye out for this golden nugget wherever it pops out to. And obviously, the better questions you ask yourself, the higher the quality of your life and the things you learn and experience will become. Because this is how you'll be steering your attention to. For example, a paradigm shift is, instead of asking yourself whenever something goes wrong in your life and be coming from a victim mentality and saying to yourself, oh, why is this happening to me? You can ask yourself, oh, why is this happening for me? Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich, stated very clearly that every seed of adversity carries with it an equal or greater seed of benefit. So you can always look at the adversity, or you can always, through asking yourself a powerful question, find the benefit. So always use powerful questions that serve your well-being and best interest each and every single time you're engaged with something that's important to you. Now, most of you already shared that you practice meditation. Meditation is fundamental. If you don't have a meditation practice yet, you are missing on a lot. Meditation to me is one of the most powerful tools that allows you to train your monkey mind to no longer behave like a little puppy that shits and pisses everywhere it wants, but rather it obeys its master, because the mind is a great servant but a lousy master. Because most people that don't meditate or don't meditate enough think and associate themselves with their thoughts. They don't have a distinction between themselves and their thoughts. They think their own thoughts, and they always have a non-stop 24/7 mental chatter. Well, if you want to focus and concentrate on something and use your mind to its fullest capacity, if it's already engaged in its own little show that's going on, mental chatter 96.FM, it's going to be very hard for you to stay focused and concentrated on something. And the only way you can create the space and put your mind in idle is through meditation. And this is not going to happen overnight. In order for these effects to really start occurring for you, there will be cumulative effects that build up over time. So meditation is the one tool that will allow you to have quiet and calm mental space that you can use for other things than just regurgitating the same nonsense that you've been regurgitating over your entire life, because that's mostly what's happening in the monkey mind. The Buddha, many centuries ago, described the human mind as a drunken monkey that jumps from one branch to the next, which in essence what he meant is goes from one thought to another useless thought to another useless thought, and so on and into infinitum, right? So through meditation, we can, in essence, if you've ever driven a car that has manual gearbox and what they call here stick shift, you have a clutch. You can press the clutch, and when you press the clutch, you disengage all the gearboxes, and the car stops moving. In essence, it puts it in neutral, so you're in idle mentally, and you have all your mental capacity to focus, concentrate, and dedicate on whatever you wish for, rather than your own little mind, because it's an entity separate of you. It's yours, it belongs to you, but it's entity separate of you that likes to keep itself entertained. And the only thing it can do is to think. So that's all it does all day. Thinks about a lot of nonsense and crap. And unless you meditate on a daily basis, it's very hard for you, almost impossible, to ever feel or find moments where you don't have a single thought in your mind. When was that time? Can you recall this time? When you were so calm and peaceful that there are no thoughts in your mind for even like a minute. So meditation is an extremely powerful tool. There are many different types of meditation out there. Somebody already mentioned and shared that they were doing transcendental meditation. I personally do not like transcendental meditation or any chanting meditation because it still keeps you in the head. What I recommend personally, the type of meditation I first started with, is called Vipassana meditation. Because what Vipassana meditation is, it's an ancient technique of meditation that was shared and redeveloped or rediscovered, the story is, from Buddha himself about 2,500 years ago. So it's a very ancient meditation practice that's been around for a very long time. It's highly practical and highly effective, because what it does, it takes you out of your head and puts you into your body. So instead of using meditations or chanting things mentally, you focus or you bring your awareness into your body, and you become present and aware of all of the sensations, all of the things present in your body, rather than being locked up in your head. So it's a very different type of meditation, and for me, that was a very powerful tool some years ago, and I practiced it for maybe 2 or 3 years religiously every single day. And it's an extremely, extremely, extremely effective meditation that I highly recommend for all of you who don't yet possibly have a meditation practice or are curious about exploring different highly functional types of meditation that you can implement and gain results from. Again, meditation is a muscle that you develop over time. So there are cumulative effects. You cannot expect to sit down and meditate for 20 minutes one day a week and have results. Good luck with that. Don't waste your time. If you're going to meditate, Just like you have hygiene, daily hygiene for your body, meaning you brush your teeth, you probably take a shower, and so on. You have to set a daily mental hygiene practice. This is what meditation is. It's your daily mental hygiene practice. And if you're going to dedicate any time to meditation, I would definitely recommend at least 30 minutes. Best is 1 hour. I know this is very ambitious, but once you develop a meditation practice of, let's say, 30 minutes per day, because 15 minutes is not enough. 15 minutes, it takes only your mind. It takes 15 minutes for somebody who's new into meditation to quiet their mind. And then you can actually start really getting into a deeper states of meditation. So 15 minutes is like kind of like warming up your car and then not going anywhere. You're just shutting down again. There's no point to it. You have to do it for at least half an hour and then build up to an hour. And here's the key. If you are someone who needs rest or you like to sleep, you're not going to be missing on your rest, because while you're meditating, once you get into a deep state of meditation, actually you'll be resting more than if you are to sleep. So you can actually take time away from your sleeping and dedicate it to meditation, because what happens is while we sleep, our subconscious mind is always on. It doesn't go to sleep. It listens, records, knows, feels, and collects all the information that's present within you. The only thing that's sleeping is your conscious mind, which is a very tiny little snippet of your mind. So through this sleeping process, the only thing that's resting for the most part is the body. And it's doing some hormonal things and so on that's recovering. However, your mind is not resting. But when you're meditating, when you're in a deep state of meditation, and not deep in the sense of like you're a Himalayan yoga master who meditates for hours and days and months at a time, but you just develop the practice and you put the time in over every single day, your body and mind actually recovers a lot more effectively and quicker than if you were to go to sleep, because your mind is also resting. And when your mind is resting, there is all this body, all this energy that is being freed up that normally the mind consumes in its mindless nonsense regurgitation of old ideas, thoughts, and so on, and can be diverted back into the body to do its recovering, repairing, and all these things. So meditation is a fundamental practice. If you don't have meditation practice yet, I highly recommend that you look into it and you start exploring what options are available. However, my high recommendation is to start with Vipassana meditation. There are different types of meditation out there. Vipassana to me is highly practical, effective, and it definitely gives you the results you want. I already mentioned this earlier, but I want to repeat it again. The main function of the brain is to coordinate all the movement in the body. So if we want to stimulate the body on a daily basis, we want to be engaging our body as much as possible, especially doing plyometrics or full dynamic stretching or some sort of full yoga flow, if yoga is your thing. Something that gets you to move your entire body, your hands, your legs, your back, everything, every single thing in your body. The more engaged your body is, the more engaged your brain is. And you want to stimulate it on a daily basis because, again, you either use it or you lose it. It's up to you to make a decision. But if you want to keep it, you want to keep it operating at its optimum, you want to be stimulating it on a daily basis by fully engaging your body. And again, I'm standing up all day. I'm not saying you do the same, but if you're working on a desk, you're sitting down for long periods of time, every hour, up to maximum an hour and a half, take 15, 20 minutes, move around, do something. Actually, something really good to do is I'll explain something very simple. Let me make sure I have enough space here. But just stand up. If you've been sitting down for a long time, stand up. Lock your hands right here like this. And what you want to do is rotate around your spine like this, because this is going to pump spinal fluid up your spine and energize your brain. Because the energy in our human body follows or flows through the spinal column. So by doing this, by rotating, you're going to be bringing a lot of spinal fluid into your brain and getting your body moving. So it's something very simple, easy, and powerful to do. If you've been sitting down for a long time, I highly recommend it. Now, the next one is fundamental. Depending on how old you are and how amazing you want to be at your cognitive capacity, the one thing you want to do and be very mindful of is the amount of body fat you have in your body. The more body fat you have, the less blood pressure you have that you can feed oxygen-rich blood to your brain. So each pound you gain affects your cognitive capacity. There is a sweet spot. I would say anywhere between 13 to 14%, 15% of body fat is something to shoot for. Anywhere above that is going to start giving you very negative results. And if you're obese or you're having heavy body weight, this is going to affect your cognitive capacity in ways that you cannot imagine. By lacking, again, any ability to focus and concentrate, especially mental fog and so on, because the number one source of energy to the brain is oxygen. And what brings oxygen to the brain is the bloodstream or the blood flow. If you have a restricted blood flow, which is caused by high amount of body fat, you will be limiting your body's ability to supply your brain with sufficient amount of oxygen. So managing your BMI or body mass index or ratio between muscles and actual tissue and fat is fundamental. This is going to be a very, very dramatic game changer, especially for those who have a higher body weight and are struggling with that. And that's why, for example, I already recommended fasting as a fundamental thing to put as a daily practice or to experiment with and to see how it actually affects your performance on a mental level and energetically wise. So always keep in mind, you want to be as lean as possible in order to be as sharp as possible in the head. The leaner you are, the sharper you're going to be in the head. It's simple as that. And the more your brain will default into consuming fat as its energy source when it comes down to eating food. And if you're consuming fat as your energy source and your brain loves it because it's a big bowl of fat itself, you're going to be running very, very solid and stable throughout the day and not lack any energy, focus, ability to concentrate, and so on. You'll be always gliding through the day. Again, it takes time, it takes practice. It's not something that happens overnight, right? You optimize things in your lifestyle step by step by step. This is what I've been doing for a very long time. Once I see that something works, then I find a way to stack up on it and optimize that even further so I can push the limits of what is possible because that's what I like to do. The next point, in order to keep our minds stimulated and always on point, is to always learn, to make an effort, to always learn. Is to always learn something new. Meaning either like today, you're joining me for the webinar. That's a great example of how to or what to do on a daily basis. Learn something new. But not only information-wise, but some new skill. Always on a daily basis, get exposed yourself and your brain to something new, to some novelty. The brain thrives on novelty. So you want to provide it with novelty. Listen to new music, watch a documentary, attend a webinar, read a book, learn a new skill. Maybe you want to dance, maybe something that you've been delaying, right? Always introduce your brain to something new because it thrives on novelty. It likes new things. And by doing so, you're keeping it young and fresh and always like a little child that's curious for everything. And that's the place you want to keep your mind or brain at. Being curious and open to new ideas, new possibilities, all of these wonderful things. So always learn something new, do something new, put yourself in a new environment, spend time with new people. Just always bring in your mind something new. And do it on a daily basis. Create a habit of doing so. All of the things I shared today with you are very powerful, but the key is to, once you, let's say, resonated with some of them, is to take them and apply them directly into your life. And if you see results, you see that they work, then turn them into a daily habit. Start practicing them daily. Start stacking them up, because this is going to give you the results or what brought you to the webinar today. Because again, knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing. So I do recommend that you, whatever you resonated with through this conversation, take and apply it, if not this afternoon or today, tomorrow, or as soon as feasibly possible. Because all of these things I share with you today are very simple to do. They don't require for you to go and invest in infrastructure, to buy something, to go and change something. All you have to do is actually go and do them tomorrow. So I do recommend doing this. And as you see the results, doing them, keep on repeating, doing them daily to build those good, amazing habits that will empower you to be the genius that you're born to be, because you are. All you have to do is optimize the conditions that your ball of fat is operating in, so you can start making the most out of it. And with that being said, I want to open up the webinar for questions, comments, and see what resonated with you guys, and give you time to share all of your thoughts so far. And I can catch my breath and rehydrate. Does anyone has any question at this moment? Please feel free to type them in the chat box, unmute yourself, read the options. Good. Everybody's welcome.
Hey, Martin. Not a question specifically, but yeah, thank you for sharing this with us. And yeah, it's been really helpful and very complete, right? About mind, body, and spirit, and everything that you've shared and talked about. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Pablo. Thank you for joining us and investing this time in yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
What about you, Stephanie? Do you have a question or a comment, something that comes to mind, something that resonated with you? Or Marie? Maybe it says Stephanie Marie Black. I'm not sure. I'd love to answer some of your questions. throw something at me. Make it interesting for me, because at this point I've been making a lot of noise with my mouth, but love to answer some questions if you guys have something else you want to know about. Or if it's not a question, then I have a question for you. What do you really resonated with and you are committing to implementing tomorrow in your life?
So yeah, like I would need to apply several of those things, and I'm not sure if it's appropriate to do all at once, but yeah, like I'm not overweight or anything at all. Quite the contrary, I have a fast metabolism, but I do want to optimize my time, my food intake, and everything for my brain performance, because I'm handling multiple startups at the same time, and it's a lot of work, and the one of the things for the brain that I struggle with is exercise, because I focus so much on the brain, I forget to exercise. So perhaps I could commit to doing that more on a schedule.
Absolutely. Here's what I recommend: doing it first thing in the morning, or doing it before you even start your the rest of the stuff. That way you get your mind stimulated properly. Because later on it's very easy to have reasons why not to go into the gym or exercise. So always do it first thing in the morning. Those type of self-care routines, you want to do them early in the morning. Develop the habit of doing them early on. So then, as your day develops and things starts to pop out, because this dealing with startups, I used to be in the startup world myself. There's always something new that comes up, right? That takes your attention and time. So if you dedicate the time early in the day, then there won't be no excuse, or you won't lack the time or energy to go and do it. And you'll feel the way you're going to come into your work later on is going to be a lot more empowered, focused, concentrated, and energized than if you were having exercise at all. There's going to be a significant difference. So I do recommend doing it early on.
Yeah, definitely. It's just that everything is recommended to do first thing in the morning anyways, right? Meditation is recommended to do first thing in the morning. Learning is also recommending to do early in the morning, when the brain can absorb more. So I ended up with a morning routine that, even trying to do everything as efficiently as possible, if I include meditation, some learning time, some exercise, like very active learning, and that's why my active learning takes me like more than an hour. But the point is that in total, it becomes a morning routine of of like 4 hours. So I'm trying to also optimize the time it takes, and see how I can work that in. And of course, in my case, since exercise is the one I enjoy the least, is the one that I most easily skip.
Yeah, you find all the rational justification why to skip on it, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Here's something you have to be conscious of. At the end of the day, you have one body tempo in this lifetime. Your body is your temple. It's where your soul, your consciousness lives and exists. And if you want to be enjoying a long, vital life, you will have to be putting time and effort dedicated to its maintenance, because that's why you're doing by exercising. The body is meant to be used. We're not built to live in the comfortable life we live nowadays. Our bodies are built to overtake the whole planet. Our ancestors inhabited this planet over 50,000 years ago, if not longer ago, by food alone. Those bodies are built to be used. They're not built to sit down in chairs. They're not built to study. They're not built to do none of those other things, but to go and be used and applied into the real world, right? Our ancestors were hunter-gatherers. They would cover huge distances of land every single day just to find food. So you don't necessarily need to be, going and crushing, like destroying the gym by lifting all these weights and stuff. But as long as you move, you walk, you bike, you do something that engages your whole physicality and physiology, you're going to start to see how your mind is highly more capable of remembering, doing things, having a lot more focus and so on. Because again, the mind's, or not the mind, but the brain's number one function is to coordinate all the movement within the body. So the most effective and significant way for you to stimulate your brain is by using your body. There's nothing more effective than that. If you're not exercising daily, you're missing on a lot. You're leaving a lot on the table.
Yeah. I just don't find it enjoyable, and because I don't have a weight problem, for me it's easier to not see the benefits, right? Because it's not that I'm trying to lose weight, it's just that I'm trying to do it for health. And when you try to do it for health, it's almost invisible, right? Like it's not as visible as losing weight. So I just skip it, but yeah, I do understand that it's beneficial for the.
Look at me. I have no body fat or nothing. I exercise every single day. I haven't skipped a day for years, and I do mean for years. I have no need to lose weight. I am in amazing shape. I eat clean. I would never gain weight if I wanted to, but I don't make an excuse. Why should I overlook my body temple? This is where my soul lives. This is my home. The place, your house, your apartment that you call your home is the shelter for your body. This is your home. You just haven't yet had to dealing with disease, health problems, and so on. Then when you have that context, when your health is taken away from you, then you're going to be asking yourself why I didn't do something earlier about my well-being. Because in that context, people start to appreciate their well-being when it's taken away. And here's something I want you to keep in mind, Pablo. If you don't make time for health, you will have to make time for illness. It's up for you to choose what are you willing to dedicate your time to. Because it's not when, it's not if, it's when.
Right.
So don't sell yourself short, especially on your well-being. The one thing that's going to keep you strong mentally when you go and deal with all your startups and so on, and going to keep you focused and concentrated, is going to be you going out there and exercising your body. You don't exercise because it feels good. You exercise because it's good for you.
Some people do find it enjoyable.
Of course, they do, because you get rewarded with a lot of good hormones that kick in once you're done exercising. It's all how you program your mind. The very fact that you're repeating this thing that I don't enjoy it becomes a mental habit that you have. Every time you think about exercise, the thought that is triggered is I don't enjoy it. What if you say it's good for me, I love it, and start repeating this rather than I don't enjoy it?
Right. Yeah, I should try to program my mind to like to exercise, I guess.
No, because your mind's gonna love it. Again, it stimulates your brain, it gives it good hormones and so on. It is nothing to be not liking about it. There's so much to gain. And again, I'm not saying go ahead and be an athlete in the gym and go and destroy the weights and all that, right?
Right.
You don't have to kill yourself by working out. You don't have to be a Mr. Olympia or something like that. All you have to do is to engage your body. All you have to do, literally, if you're going to be doing a minimum, at least a full dynamic stretching flow every day, which will take you like 15 minutes. You have no excuse why you can't do it. Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen, if you're not doing this daily, your mobility, or meaning your ability for your joints and all these soft places where your body moves and grooves, will start to stiffen up. The more you age, the more they stiffen up. The more they stiffen up, the less your mobility. So eventually, you'll be moving around like a little robot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just by doing this simple stuff of dynamic stretching every single day for 15 minutes, you'll be helping your longevity significantly.
Yeah.
So again, don't start small, build up. Don't go and overshoot yourself and sign up for the gym and so on and trainers and so on. Start simple. Take 30 minutes walk every day.
Okay.
Buy a bicycle. Right? Again, there's different ways you can exercise. You can go play a sport if you like soccer or basketball or swimming or something. Just go and get your body engaged. Be creative with it. Do something that you enjoy. It's not maybe in the context of what you perceive exercising to be, which would most people be like, oh, I need to go to the gym and lift weights, right? Is that what your concept of exercising is?
No, but it's still like, it's still not the pleasure that people say it is for them. For me, perhaps because I haven't done it consistently to feel rewarded by it or something. But like, I don't feel pleasure putting my body through pain, basically, when I have enough pain to deal with in my brain because of all the things I'm working on. But I know that it makes my brain healthier. So in a way, it's contradicting. But it's almost like, even though it's good for my brain, I already have a lot of mental exercise I'm doing that takes a lot of energy already, right? And they also say that exercising gives you energy, but maybe because I haven't done it consistently, I haven't felt that way to the point where I enjoy it, that I can actually feel the benefits.
Oh, here's the thing, dude. Here's the thing. If you're waiting for things to feel good, what's the best thing that feels good? Eating junk food. Is it good for you? It feels good, right? It feels fucking amazing. Or doing drugs or getting drunk. But is it good for you?
Right. Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah.
Right? Because if we're always looking for the things that feel good, right? The immediate gratification, you being in startups, you must realize that there is no immediate gratification in startups. You already mentioned the pain. Well, if you've accepted this reality in your business, why don't you accept it in your personal life?
Because in a startup, as you know, because you mentioned that you've been in the startups before, the business is your personal life.
No, it's not. This is bullshit. This is the story you're telling yourself. You have a life and you have a business, because if your business ends, your life doesn't end, does it?
Well, yeah, that's true, I guess.
This is just a story you're telling yourself, man. Your mind is so good because you're so mind locked every day. Your mind gives you all these nonsense excuses. All of it is crap. All of it is crap. The one thing I used to notice in the startup community, and I still notice it up to this point, is that people are weak. They're wimpies because they don't do what is necessary for them to have the mental capacity, the emotional dexterity, and all that to go over and do the goddamn things that are necessary. All of them are weak. All of them are disformed. All they do is sit down all day, play on computers, and think they're doing something. Well, they're not.
Yeah.
Right? You go to any big company, what do you see? The most dysfunctional people. They don't even have a right posture. Most of them are so deformed that they're like this and walk around like they just been like stuck in in this like mummified or something like that. Right? What quality of life is this? If you have money but you have no life quality, what is gonna give you? A more comfortable one of these chairs that handicapped people use.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I can see all that you're saying, and yeah, I can definitely commit to exercise at least 15 minutes a day, and use the compounding effect to just do it every day consistently, and that's a way to do it, right?
Absolutely. Again, start small, start somewhere and build a daily habit. Once you have a daily habit to exercise, even if it's 15 minutes a day to move your body, you already have the habit. And then you can stack up on it or improve or upgrade the habit. The key is to have the habit in the first place, because what you're trying to do is change your behavior. Because the key is, again, the compound interest or the compound effect, not like doing it once. I go to the gym once a week or once a month or whatever like this, and I convince myself that I exercise.
Right.
You're probably doing more exercise by walking around your home than that.
Right.
So just start small, install the habit, and then once you see that you have it, then upgrade. Then you will have inspiration and so on, and motivation to do it. Because don't expect for the motivation to come. Motivation comes when you take action, not the other way around. Motivation is the product of you taking action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because this is going to help you significantly. If you exercise daily and often, you're going to be so much better and mentally strong in your startup and your business. You're going to be seeing significant differences. I can guarantee you that.
And I do believe that, but at the same time, because like having to do everything in a day, even 5 minutes make a difference of sending an email, of doing something that could turn into part of the business. And
here's the thing: everything can wait until tomorrow. You have to understand that. What are you doing by not investing in your well-being, by not using your body properly and giving it what it needs? What are you doing in shortening your life? And not only are you shortening your life, but you're shortening your life's quality as well. Yeah. Missing on the email to reply today is not going to change anything tomorrow, unless somebody's dying and you need to do hard to rejuvenate them with something like that. Nothing cannot wait for until tomorrow. All you have is all these excuses. You see, the mind is very good at coming up with excuses. It will always validate your emotional state. Does it all the time. All you've been saying up to this point are these like weak excuses. None of those holds true. And you can keep on coming with them until next year. And I will basically give you an evidence that all of them are bullshit. And you're going to keep on coming with them for another year. The key is to make a simple decision. Mm-hmm. Do I want to make time for health, or do I want to make time for illness? It's your choice. It's your life. It's not for me to decide. I'm just giving you the facts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because the one thing that's going to allow you to deal with the stress you're exposed to on a daily basis in your startup engagement in business, whatever that is being physically engaged, because this is going to help your body to deal and process the toxic hormones that are released from stress. Because if you don't, they build up, and eventually what you're going to end up with is one of those terminal diseases, because that's what happens. But then again, you have a right of choice. You have free will. Make your choice. Yeah. Right? You don't have to make it now, but I definitely invite you to think about this seriously. Because there's a very popular saying that men would waste their life away to build or accumulate wealth, and then they'll spend all their wealth to gain their health back. Do you want to be one of those men?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I see all that you're saying. Yeah. No, I just gotta commit to do it. Period. Right? Like, there's no other way to do it.
Absolutely. And you weren't here at the beginning, but I definitely recommend you rewatching the replay. I'm recording the webinar. I'll make a recording available. However, what do you need is a strong why. Why is this important for you? Do you have any children in your
life? No.
Okay.
Exercising for me would just be for health, right? To not be unhealthy and to have a more powerful brain on my day to day. So I know what it could help with, but because of not liking it and time constraints, I just don't do it.
Yeah, well, of course, again, if you're looking for the things you like, might as well buy a box of junk food and just watch TV mindlessly all day, right?
Yeah.
It's not what you like, man. Don't sell yourself short on how you feel. If you're here to live life just to feel good, you're missing on the point of life. Life is not about feeling good. Life is about growth and contribution. That's what it is. And you don't grow in your comfort zone when you feel good. You grow when you put under pressure. You probably realize this by being in the startup world, right? You only expand or when you grow, when you face challenge, not when things go right.
Yeah.
So don't sell yourself short on all these things. Because again, if you're not willing to make the step to level up your being, growth, and so on, to invest in those things, life will shovel it in your mouth. That's exactly what's going to happen. You'll have to go through some trauma and nonsense that it's pretty much, it doesn't look like you've caused it to yourself, but you have because you haven't been proactive about growing and expanding in your way of being. You've been keeping yourself comfortable in this little box, and this is how it works. We either grow in life through suffering and pain or through taking proactive action on things and expanding purposefully and with intention, rather than waiting for the knock on the door to get so strong to where the person knocking on the door gets through the door and hits his fist in our head, because that's what usually happens. That's why I'm insisting on you making a commitment to start doing exercising daily, even if it's not something huge. Again, if it's just dynamically moving and stretching your entire body, this is already an amazing thing to do that most people don't, even those who exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you very much, Martin. Yeah, you've definitely inspired me to get exercising every day. I hope I can commit for longer than a week now. But yeah, this was very, very useful. I have another meeting in about 5 minutes. I'll keep an eye out for more of your events. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thanks for joining me, Pablo. Thank you for allowing me to serve you. Thank you for being on the webinar. Before you go, I actually want to share some more resources with you guys. And Obviously, I would love to answer your questions, Stephanie, if you have any. But what I want to share with you is that for showing up and sitting to the end of the webinar and being so engaged, I want to offer you a complimentary coaching session, 1 hour of my time to coach you on whatever challenge you're faced with right now, obstacle you want to overcome, or opportunity you want to seize. I will share the link in the chat box. If this is something you're interested, go ahead, look at my calendar, find out a date and time that works for you, and allow me to serve you powerfully by coaching you. This is a value of $5,000. You can already see that I'm sharing a lot of value. So it's definitely well worth it joining me for a conversation and allowing me to empower you to thrive in your life, whatever that might look in this moment for you. So let me share this resource with you in the chat box. There it is. The next resource I want to share with you is a wonderful online 5-day holistic transformation challenge, which you can sign up complimentary for, and it's loaded with great value and powerful exercises that I think if you use the first exercise in it, Pablo, to find your why you want to exercise and develop a habit, is going to be very powerful for you. So I definitely recommend looking into it and signing up and doing the exercises. Plus, there's a lot of good points about exercising, diet, and so on. So there's a lot of value by signing up for it. So this is the next resource I want to share with you guys that you're welcome to sign up for, because I want to add and provide you with as much value as I possibly can. And finally, I am hosting more webinars coming up in a couple of weeks. And I'm going to share with you, I did it earlier, but I'll share it with you again because I don't think, Pablo, you're on it. The link to all of my upcoming webinars, my whole full calendar of upcoming webinars on Eventbrite, where you can see all the different topics, and most of them that I've already hosted have a recorded webinar from before or a lecture about it, so you can educate yourself about it and so on, and then join me again live on Zoom and be exposed to some amazing information. I'm really grateful that you guys showed up for yourself today to learn some powerful insights. Now, what I want again from you is to go and apply them into your daily life so you can see the difference they make and start improving the results you get out of your life, because I'm sharing those powerful techniques and insights with you for that very reason, to empower you, to inspire you, and educate you on a subject that can make or break your life. So by all means, take full advantage of all the resources I've offered you. Thank you so much for showing up for yourself and playing full out and engaging and sharing with me and being such a great audience. Thank you again, Pablo. Thank you again, Stephanie. If you guys don't have any more questions or comments, I would call this another wonderful webinar and call it a day and say bye until next time.
All right. Thank you very much, Martin.
You're welcome, Pablo.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.